It could be. There again, there's so many possibilities and variables, and there's also the variable that this has nothing to do with Scooter and Taylor or the subpoena in any of it. But let's just like go down these rabbit holes because it's fun. Because Scooter, I remember watching him on Man Enough, the Roundtable, which I have a bunch of clips to show you from there. But there he is with Jamie and this guy who, what's his name? Lewis Howes, who I thought it was that one football player from like what, not Minnesota, but somewhere in the middle of the country, Milwaukee or something. Is Milwaukee city or state? They were like brothers. Anyways, they're old now. I've never heard of him, but I've seen him on commercials. Justin, Matt McGorry, also don't know him. Tony Porter, found out more because of this about him. Lewis Howes or Hose, whatever. Scooter Braun, Jamie Heath, Susan Bryson, Alma Gonzalez, and Yasmin Monet Watkins. There was one Reddit comment that said, bunch of men sitting around talking about the Me Too movement, not crediting the women. What women are you talking about? The women that they were talking about that they've seen being not treated right and they didn't speak up about, or they spoke out about it. I mean, they say so many things in this. Like, what women are you talking about? And if that's the case, you mean like they didn't take advantage of those victims by blasting their personal information and name? I think it's so disrespectful unless that person's like, please use my name. The last thing you'd want is for a man to talk about a woman's victimhood without her consent. So like victimhood, that sounds weird. Incident, I don't know. Complete theory. Again, we're deep into this rabbit hole. We're in Alice in Wonderland, which is also, I guess, a favorite theme of Taylor Swift. So it links, really well to the theme of tonight. We're definitely in Wonderland right now in this theory that what if Justin mediated between Scooter and Taylor? Maybe not like sat down and like with both of them. Though that could happen, but that sounds so weird, especially right now. But what if there were some talk, some like mediation? Because when I listen to this video, I don't know how well they know each other. They have this one Instagram post together with their families and their kids and stuff before they got divorced, blah blah. I don't know how deep their friendship is or whatever. They seem to know each other for a while. He may be part of why he went with Melissa and Nathan for a tag, if that's the case, if he's the shareholder or one of the bigger ones or whatever. Like, there's so many things, but it seems like their relationship was pre that. It was 2018 that they posted this and the video. Maybe it was just like a short-lived connection, like you get new friends or whatever. I don't know. Maybe Scooter Braun is a terrible guy. Maybe he's not. There's actually not much to go one way or another in this video. He says nice things in this video, but he doesn't talk that much. And that's not a lot of these clips. I think the majority are with him or about him, but some are not. But they're kind of related to our topic. Sorry, I forgot to change this. I mean, it wouldn't be crazy to think that something like that would happen as far as, business dealings and negotiations, right? It's really strange if that would be the case, honestly, I guess. I don't know. I'm like nauseous. I don't know. Did I eat something bad? What is happening? On that note, let's keep going. So that's my little theory. Maybe it's like this dream world where like people can coexist and can like each other and can like make up and realize, oh, you're not that bad. You're not that bad either. Although even in my theory, it's probably not necessarily I'm thinking exactly that as far as mediation, but maybe just as simple as a negotiation between Venable and whatever Friedman's law firm is. Yeah, it could be something like that. Hey, you really want this piece of evidence? Give me something that I've been wanting and fighting for years that I can't have, but oh, guess what? You know this person. Maybe you can like help me out with this. I don't know anything. This is all just speculation completely. Sometimes I do think when we talk, sometimes I watch YouTubers or I think of like, oh, I really want to say that, but should I? Because I think, is this going to give lively side ideas what to like put out into the public? Like, oh, this person said this. We can write, like twist it around and like throw it out there or something. At the end of the day, you can't really control that. And in a way, it's better to kind of say it in your own words, or I don't know, whatever. Subpoena being withdrawn. I have another note here saying that one article was talking about how the subpoena is a harassment and threat, or like the lively side was insinuating that. I'm like a little grandma, having a grandma moment right now. Yeah, okay, here it is. Oh my gosh, Andy's face. We are pleased that Justin Baldoni and the Wayfair parties have withdrawn their harassing subpoenas to Taylor Swift and her law firm, the spokesperson said from Lively Side. We supported the efforts of Taylor's team to quash these inappropriate subpoenas directed to her counsel, and we will continue to stand up for any third party. Oh, how savior of them, who is unjustly harassed or threatened in the process. And I say, and I may be wrong, I don't know that much about the law and about legal matters and stuff, but when is going through the correct legal system steps harassment and threats? Because subpoenas are something that are common and legal, the correct way and the nicer way to handle things, right? I mean, short of, emailing them, hey, do you have this information? Can you give it to us? And they say, yeah, sure. But I feel like aren't subpoenas like that way to do it? This is a question for the lawyers. But yeah, in my opinion, when has a subpoena become a harassment and a threat? Going through the legal system is now a threat and harassment by going and doing the right things in the right legal way. Also, don't understand why everyone's so strong on this means they got what they wanted. Sorry. The yawns are the same thing. I'm not breathing correctly. Oh boy. All right. Scooter. I don't know this man. I don't know too much. There's so many. I don't know. I'll tell you one thing that was like really cute. And this is kind of independent of him, but it is, I guess, about him. This is like goals right here. I want a friends group that's like this. I'm not going to play the music because it's. Oh, we're halfway there. Whoa. Yeah, this one's with you and sing. Wait, when we're apart, I feel it too. And no matter what I say or something, I don't know. Anyways, he's not a dancer. I'm sorry, I mean that in the best way. But like, this is a bunch of a compilation of him and friends and people like going to having these dinners. I feel like a lot of them are at karaoke bars. Like this one. I want that. I'm sorry. I don't know. So I don't know, good guy, bad guy, but I want this part of his life for sure. I want to have these dinner parties of just singing. It's mostly 90s music too. Anyways, so yeah, I'm not invested one way or another with the Scooter Braun thing. Like I said, I was a Swiftie-ish for a few years, but I'm not much of a hater. Like even with Blake, I'm sure I'll be like, peace be with you. And I'm not gonna hate her. I feel like there's always an explanation. There's always like good people that do bad things, Someone was saying earlier today that Taylor's dad knew about this selling or whatever. And so it wasn't that Taylor didn't know about any of this, but she kind of played like she didn't know about it. I mean, maybe she didn't know. I mean, she was young. Maybe her dad thought, he was doing what's best. I don't know. But it's fun to be rich for these reasons. Yeah. I didn't even think about the rich part, but yeah, add that to it, April. Add that to my wish list. To me, the thing that like I really want from that is just the group of friends singing. Like you don't need to be rich for that, but yeah, to have those dinners and things, it did look expensive now that you say it. That also would be nice. Keep this in mind as far as Scooter Braun and how I'm covering him. I'm neither a fan nor a hater of him. I don't know. He's in the music business. I think he's a producer or something. So I'm sure there's skeletons there in one way or another. Let's get into these little things. Played, I think, some of this. I played one part that I might play again. Yeah, Tony Porter's part. But I want to play a few more clips from it. So buckle up. This isn't going to be too long. It just looks like a lot because there are a lot of clips, but they're only like a minute long or less. All right. So the first one, we already start with this guy.
Executives to interviewers to men in powerful positions. So for me, it's just like, it's a lot of people.
Yeah, certainly. We've glorified the idea of crossing the line. We've made it, you come into the entertainment business, fast cars, fast women. That's what we're told. Oh, look how great that is. You come in, you're going to win. You're going to get that nice car, and you're going to get that girl. And like, they're objects.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious what you think, because I feel like you're one of the most connected people in Hollywood. You have a big Rolodex of a lot of these men who have come out and been in the media and the press. You've met them all, or you've been interviewed by some of them.
Or I've worked with them. And some are very surprising. What's more interesting to me is finding out about people that I thought were friends. Not just acquaintances, like I knew them, friends.
Everybody that I know on some level, good men, really good men, play a part in this.
Jamie. I love Jamie. Oh my gosh, I love Jamie. So yeah, that's the first clip though. You can watch the rest of, what Jamie says and other people say, but that first part kind of sets the tone, because yeah, there is such a peer pressure to it that they talk about. And this ties into something that I said at one point, that men do need to talk about this. And we do need to see men talk about this, or we need to have men talk to us women about this, and to each other, because it's not just women that get assaulted and harassed and everything. Someone on Reddit thought differently, and I'll get to that later, but I then doubled up on, no, I think men talking is important. It is not about taking away the spotlight. In this situation, in the Me Too movement, they were the issue, men. And they talk about that. It's not just the men that did something, it's also the men that didn't speak up when they saw or heard something being done or about to be done or whatever. That person that said, oh, you didn't credit these women. Did they mean these women? Because they said their names and they showed them and gave them, the space. But okay, I don't know what women that person was talking about didn't get credited.
I feel like some men justify their actions. Maybe someone smiled at them, flirted with them. It's not an invitation to someone or harass someone.
I thought that was an important piece to put in here because of this conversation, because of really the conversation around the Blake Lively lawsuit the lawsuit that Blake Lively has. The people that are on her side usually speak about, we believe that she was harassed, and I think most of the time, because they are still dealing with their own pain and their own experiences, they need justice, and they see this potentially be giving them the justice that they're seeking. My one friend saying, another man that gets away with it, they don't want that, so they're on Blake's side for that. There's many reasons, not that many, but they're around that kind of thing. They believe Blake. So I thought that was an important point to highlight. This whole talk, and this is just one of the many talks. Again, he had a podcast about this, and I don't know, but it's hard for anyone to convince me that a man, or a person, but a man that has a podcast, episode after episode, at least once a week or however many, he talks with women and men, or just Jamie, his producer, partner, whatever, and they reflect and they have these tough conversations about these exact subjects, about what is like male toxicity or masculinity or healthy masculinity, all these things that go under these umbrellas. So it's hard for anyone to really convince me at this point, especially with all that we've seen. And this is what I felt like when I was reading Blake's CRD complaint, and I was reading these things that she was alleging about him, and I hadn't watched that much, honestly, from his Man Enough podcast. I think I did see a tidbit of that, and then maybe a tidbit of this, and I followed him so lightly, so I didn't know that much. So I was inclined to believe her, again, because it was a legal document, and because she's a woman, and like, who would say this and this happens, right? And it seemed like the details were there. Some things just looked suspicious from the beginning, but then I remember just wrestling with the dissonance between, and this is also real, where it happens like this too, where actually Justin talks about this later, like, this is a person I know, so she must be lying, because I know this man, so she must be lying, having this bias, so that's what I went into the wrestling with it. Like, I don't feel like he could do this, but that's kind of what we do, Too, right? We're like, oh, that's part of the whole Me Too movement, and the whole issue is that women don't get believed because you just, it's like, the man, like, I know this man talks about this or whatever. I don't even know him, but like, we parasocially know these people. But at the same time, I remember just feeling in my core, and I still feel, and this is why I feel like even now when I'm talking about this, it's still possible that we might, see something that is, and it might be decided that it's not as like clear as we're seeing it now on this side of things, that he's not that innocent or whatever. I'm not that innocent. Oops, I did it again. Okay. Um, unrelated, but it also ironic timing with Britney Spears and stuff. But I was wrestling with this, like, how could someone, and when I watched this today for you guys for this video, it kind of brought up that wrestling again in a way, but a lot more settled, because I really do believe what Blake is stating. I don't believe it. It's not that I don't believe necessarily the things that happen, but I don't believe that they happen in a way that she's alleging. And I think she was not that ignorant to them not happening the way that she's alleging. So that's like my belief right now. So I have a little bit more calm, but it's still like, I was watching clip after clip after clip. I was watching this woman talk about this. Like, he edited this, or he was like directing this. He was watching this. He, later on, you see, he interviewed this woman that went through a horrible, horrific experience, and I won't share that part, obviously, but he interviewed her, he listened to her, he had this conversation with these other men, he's had all these other conversations, but just even just this one video, I thought over and over again, in what world would this man that's being exposed to these ideas and is exposed to these questions, either that he's posing or that other people are posing, and these conversations, in what world would he do anything that was inconsiderate or harassment? B, especially if it was brought up to him like, hey, that made me uncomfortable. And I go back to this, like, yes, it is not a victim's responsibility, someone crossing their boundaries, but it is their responsibility to at least state their boundaries, because yes, in some cases it's just a duh. And they talk about this at one point too, like, some things are clear, like, you should never do that. And even then, yet, it is your responsibility to state your boundary. The hard part is that sometimes you are not safe to do so. So I get that. It's so muddled. But this was not the case with It Ends With Us. I'm sorry, but Blake was at least in no danger of actual SH and SA. Because that's like, I feel like the threat is like that leading into assault, into like that person touching you inappropriately or going further, crossing like really big boundaries, or even like mentally. And not actually, Golden spoke about like it has to be pervasive, I think, right? Like it has to happen over and over and over again. Pervasive or severe, and the pervasive one was that. The assault part is really the fear. When you get a whistle, when you're walking down the street and you get whistled at, or like catcalled or whatever, really the fear is, am I going to be unsafe in the following few minutes? Is this person going to follow me home or follow me wherever I'm going, or are they going to assault me on, in the street or whatever? Like, and I don't know that Blake realizes the difference between someone making her uncomfortable, saying something that maybe they understandably didn't think that it could make her uncomfortable because either of the conversation they were having or whatever, and like what that leads to and like what that meant. I don't know. From what we've seen, I don't see that she was in any danger of any boundary of that, like assault on your body and mind and soul be crossed by Justin. I don't see through this video, and I'll keep playing, sorry that I paused. I don't see through any of this video, I don't see a way that this man could have done anything willingly, knowingly, even unwillingly and unknowingly, because it seems like he constantly questions, he constantly makes sure you're okay, make sure that he didn't cross boundaries. He's constantly searching to like see that. So if he got anything wrong, now I go back to that $40 with her dad, with her, dad that passed away, where she joked, and the way that she presented, like, oh, he didn't get the point that I was uncomfortable and didn't want to talk about it when I said said, oh, tell him he owes me $40. It just like, it floors me every time that someone would think that was like, hey, signaling to anyone in this whole world. Any like human being put that and like, oh, she doesn't want to talk about it, I better shut up. Like, no freaking way. And so she did it again. The way she phrased that was just so wrong. So I think it's more like that. That's my personal belief. But yeah, I included this part with this woman talking about that. To me, it spoke to what he already knows, what's already in his mind thinking when he's out there in the world interacting with women or anyone, maybe. Again, that's why there's like that talk about like, you're so disrespecting real victims. Like, think before you file a lawsuit, you know? How hard is it? In my opinion, Ryan is the one that tortured Blake mentally. She's experiencing a transference situation by blaming someone else like Justin because he's kind. That's a good theory. That's not a bad theory. That's one theory. I still feel like we've seen a lot of Blake pre-Ryan that wasn't great. We heard so many stories also pre-Ryan where she was not that great. But I guess I'd still kind of go in between and potentially subscribe to that same theory as far as like, we are influenced by the people we are with and we're surrounded by every day. So like, if maybe she had like a sliding doors moment, if she would have been with someone that's like Justin, maybe she would have healed whatever is like kind of unhealed inside, all the narcissism in her family, all the things that I feel like are happening. I don't know for sure, allegedly, supposedly, theorizing over here that exists. And so she would have healed that and she would have gone and become a better version of herself and a better person. Meanwhile, she maybe got down this road with Ryan and she was so young. Because this, to your theory, I think this is definitely important. The age difference between them is big enough where there is that power imbalance. Not just a man, but an older man. She was like in her 20s, like early 20s or something when they met, right? Because they've been together for like 10 years or so. I mean, 30-year-old men are not adult, but you know, they know more. This clip, I believe I've shown, but I feel like is very worthwhile showing. I like this guy.
Truth of the matter is, men who do those things, they don't do it without the permission of the rest of us, right? We create the collective socialization of manhood.
You nailed it. Yep. Good men are a part of this. People who are good people are a part of this. In every conflict, you have a perpetrator, a bystander, and a victim. And what people need to learn is the bystander plays the greatest role in any conflict. A bystander can change a conflict. A perpetrator, when a victim says, please help me, the perpetrator goes harder. We're the bystander within our group, and we have the greatest responsibility.
So again, come at me, Swifties, whatever. I don't know. I don't even know. You know, I don't know. I don't know this man. I don't know. Maybe he's just saying this for the cameras. I don't know. But he's saying some good things. He's saying some good things. But yeah, the whole conversation. I don't know. I love Tony Poor. I guess he wrote a book. I'm so afraid now with every single person that writes anything or says anything, celebrity wise or whatever. I'm like, I should read before I speak. Because maybe they're not that great, but I love everything he says, in this video. Yeah.
And I didn't even remember it until the Me Too stuff happened. Because I started to think about what are all the times that I've been silent and where does that start? And I remember bros before hoes in high school, right? The guy code. It's like I have been conditioned my entire life to have an allegiance to men. So much so that I've also known recently a few men that have gone down, and my subconscious thought is, I know him. She must be lying. My first reaction is I'm not believing her. That's fucked up. And that's me.
And this is my first moment where I said, you're trying to tell me this person just magically changed in 2, 3, 4 years. Ironically, as he got older and wiser, supposedly people get wiser. Generally, you do get more knowledge as you grow old. So either he changed overnight or just magically like that. He just became this bad, evil person to Blake, or he was lying over here. He lied and that wasn't real and whatever. I'm sure people will say, oh yeah, that's just fake. He was just saying what people wanted to say. He was just putting on a show, whatever. That's not what I saw. I mean, he freaking, this is a crazy thing too. He freaking takes accountability for things. He's not saying like, I've never done anything bad in my life. And, doing bad is wrong. He owns up, like, I didn't know better. I messed up. I had my own ways. This is, the disgust of that paragraph, that speech, whatever, that statement that they claim Ryan wrote for Justin and Jamie to say this publicly. If that's true, it's so beyond disgusting. The more you realize, like, you're using good words, and like what you're doing to good men, to men, good, bad, or all men are born good, all people are born good. You're setting back and you're causing them pain, because at the end of the day, also, people that hurt people hurt themselves. They are hurting. So you're not doing anything good for anyone, for society, for women, for men, for perpetrators, for victims, for anyone, with statements like that. When you're using someone's words, vulnerable words, words of how they learned from something, they learned from their mistakes, they realize, oh, I used to like be a bystander. I used to believe the man over the woman when the woman was saying that she was, assaulted by the man or something. And now I realize how effed up this is, and all this stuff. You're using that. So messed up. And you're telling me that he's the bad guy and you're not. That you are the stand-up guy, Ryan. That's what Blake is trying to tell us. That he's like just the best man ever. And I mean, to your point, Palaver, I'll go an extra mile from that. Like, it could be that she really, like I said, she was so young. She really thinks that Ryan is this like amazing God and this like perfect man. I have such a hard time imagining that. Like, I put people on pedestals. I put my ex on a pedestal, and I didn't realize it because I never did that. Like, I never just looked, I like, oh my gosh, you're perfect. You do nothing wrong. But it might be that's what Blake is doing. Because there was that one article or something where she allegedly thought that Ryan could direct this movie better. And to me, I'm like, that's so delusional. Like, Ryan, Deadpool Ryan, misogynistic Deadpool Ryan, the Deadpool, like, we're talking about the same person that's making like awful jokes even candidly on talk shows. That Ryan, you think that Ryan, that person's doing a better job respecting women as victims of DV? Okay, all right. So maybe maybe there is something to, like, I don't know, tortured, but definitely like I don't know, whirled her brain or whatever. That doesn't make any sense. Moving on. I just, yeah, that one point just got to me. I'm like, it's dissonance. And I mean, he talks about that too. Literally, the irony is that in this clip, he exactly says that kind of dissonance of, I know this guy, so she must be lying. I'm aware of that. I don't think that's what I'm doing with Justin Baldoni and believing him. Because also we've seen so much on both sides. From what we've seen on both sides, it just is, it's not really the same thing. It's coming from a more educated guess than just a guess, than just like allegiance because of gender or something. So yeah, I don't know. Moving on to just a little bit after this.
Okay, I don't want to say anything to rub anyone the wrong way. I just want to fit in.
Does anyone know that guy? He looks so familiar to like those like two football players before Travis and the Kelsey brothers, or these other brothers from, I don't know, Minnesota or whatever. Something with M.
I'm someone that speaks up in general.
I know.
And even in that, someone who champions equality of people, absolutely, I have just sat quiet with some things, because you put a line, well, that one's not so bad. Even if it's just manipulation. I'm not talking about people that are like being strong-arming somebody. Just talking about manipulating a little bit. I got a studio, want to come do a record, right, to this really cute girl. And I know what's happening. I know that they have no interest in this person other than to bring them over so they can get busy or something. And I stay quiet.
Again, you're telling me this is the other guy that is being accused by Blake. You're telling me that guy? Just listen to him talk. This is why I'm saying, like, with Scooter and with these other men, I don't really know them. And some sound more candid and more impassioned and more, like, open and vulnerable than others. Doesn't mean that the others are lying or just putting on a show. It could mean that. I don't know. But I feel like Jamie is one of the people that is so not rehearse, not saying, what you want to hear. He has his little word salad. He reminds me of my word salad, where you're like, oh crap, did I say too much? Like, but you're just going. He sounds, to me, he sounds like, or like what he said there, this segment, let's take it by segment. This segment, to me, he sounded very honest. And you're telling me that this person did something conniving and something like bad. Let's be serious. Let's be freaking serious. I mean, seriously. These men, these are the men that we're going to do a lawsuit for inappropriate behavior. And so it made me wonder, did she do her research? Did she see this and she's like, oh, I know what I could use against them? Or did she not do any research? I don't even know if it's Blake, if it's Ryan, if it's a combination of, I don't know who really is the root of this whole thing, who started this and why. We still don't know so much. But allegedly, this is like, my theory. Like if this is, how it is, did she not, or whoever, not know about this? Not do their research of who these people are to know how these things wouldn't stick? I mean, they would stick if they didn't have the support to fight back. I don't know. I feel like even if, no, like they probably would have been bulldozed if they didn't have that, which is really sad. That's that whole 47.1 or whatever, right? That's the whole point of that one. So victims can have a chance, whereas actual cases, allegedly, supposedly, this is not one of them, but in cases of victims, like they get a chance to be able to fight back because they probably don't have the resources, because the victim is not more rich and more with resources than the perpetrator. Anyway, so moving on from Jamie. I like Jamie. I mean, I like both of them, but I really like Jamie. I don't know. Him and Tony have some of, like, I feel like the best moments in this. I don't know.
Were there moments where I didn't say anything? Were there moments that, I looked at my buddy and he was my friend, but I looked at him deep down with disgust because I wasn't okay, because I was the good guy and he was the jerk, but he was still my buddy. And I just said, okay, that's the culture of this team I'm playing on, and this culture of the playground that I'm on right now. And I wouldn't say anything. And now, growing up, with 2 little boys of my own and hopefully wanting to have a daughter in the future, all of us have to take responsibility. It's not okay to just say, I'm a good guy.
And when we get to say we're a good guy, what's the pass that we're actually giving ourselves, So is a thin line between all of that. And then if we are such good guys, then how are these men doing what they're doing in our presence?
I love Tony. Again, I don't know him before this. I didn't know about him, but I love him. I want to know more from what he's saying. Yeah, I don't know. To me, it was just another moment of, like, I think this moment was more in terms of men should speak about this. They should have these conversations. They should have them publicly. They should not feel like, and should not be attacked for them because, like, you're a bunch of men talking about, women's issues. Sometimes I don't know what people want. Sometimes I don't know if people know what they want, I should say.
A good way to look at it, but to talk about it in real talk, that's what our boys are taught. As a boy, think about it, the more interest you show in a girl, and sexual conquest is not your goal, well, then your manhood is in question, right? So they don't even talk about dating, first of all. They don't use dating.
Did you hook up with her?
They'll use hookup. It's like, I want to hit that.
Yeah.
I want a piece of that. Anybody know her? I want to tear that shit up. Just think about the terminology. Yeah. Then 2-3 years later, they say, Mr. Porter, we don't say hit that no more. We say smash that.
Oh, that's right.
So just
It
think
seems like it's evolved.
Yeah, and think about what has evolved. Violence has evolved, right? Misogyny has evolved. More aggression has evolved.
And then this is the interview with the woman. Her story is really just wrapping so many of the issues, the real horrible stories and realities in many cases for women. Yeah, anyways, I don't want to say too much that's potentially triggering. If you don't feel like you would be triggered by a story like this around this topic, go watch this video and watch her story. But yeah, like, I like how the conversation, I mean, they cover so much. They cover this conversation with how much aggression and how much violence is behind how men often, or sometimes some men, I feel like younger men especially, talk about women and girls. And yeah, there's not much to say that they didn't say. I'm over here women-splaining. Like, literally what I'm doing. I'm woman-splaining right now. Like, so what these men actually meant I mean, that's like commentary, I guess, but like funny when you put that lens onto it.
Only whether or not she says no, she also has to say yes.
It's easy when a woman says, no, okay, yeah, I understand that. It's easy when she's intoxicated, where she's passed out. You should understand that. But there's a lot of instances where these guys are like, I didn't think I was doing anything wrong. You gave me the guidelines. I did it right. And because I valued my future, I wouldn't even risk that, because from a very early age, I had very large ambitions for what I wanted my future to be. Every interaction I ever had along the way, I thought of what would happen if I did something here, there. I was that guy that if she even said no in excitement, what? No, I want to be clear.
If she said no and you like way backed off, is that because you value her or because you value you?
Tell me you don't love this Tony guy. Like, just boom.
See,
and that's so I want to answer that. The truth, I was scared for me.
yeah, and
The
I'm
truth
hearing
is I was scared for me.
everything.
Anyways, they keep going and it gets a little word salady. Valued. I mean, it's interesting what he says, but it's just like it's a little too much right now. I'll woman-splain Scooter Braun's message. He valued his future. He was scared for sacrificing his future, the idea of himself, of who he saw himself as, and so it wasn't about valuing her, but about valuing himself. And then he brings out the point, like, isn't that kind of where it should start? That if you value yourself, then you'll value other people. Kind of like people say, to love other people, you need to love yourself first. And it's not a bad idea. I don't know, but it's not a bad idea. It makes sense, I guess, on the surface. I haven't like sat with it that deeply is what I'm trying to say, to be like, oh, I have like a lot of thoughts on it.
Let's talk about why I'm like me. I'm like me because I valued myself enough that I wanted to, in that value women. And we talk about healthy relationships. And the first thing we tell someone in a healthy relationship is you can't love someone else until you love yourself. So if we want to start really making these young men, the men that we're talking about, we have to stop telling them not only to value women, but to first say to value yourself.
That's right.
You
You're
have to
100%
value
right.
women.
That's what sorry, it wasn't that Justin had something to say to that. It was that it made me think of what Justin thought of doing with this movie. He, at one point at least, had said that he wanted this movie, It Ends With Us, to help men question why they do what they do if they are the men that do these things. And I thought at that time, after I saw the movie, I'm like, great, I want to see that movie. I want to see the movie that Justin is talking about. I think that's such a worthwhile project. Conversations, like he said, conversations around SH, SA, DV, all this stuff is very centered around the women. First of all, genderized, but women are more likely than men. So just sticking with that, it's all about the victims and also like men who experience this. Also, it's not just from women, it's also from men. So men are more likely a predator or an instigator, a perpetrator, not predator, perpetrator. And the conversations, as Justin pointed out, and I feel like it's true, like when we see a movie or we have conversations around this, it's about what women can do differently, what the woman's issue was, what the issue was that, she wasn't doing or she did or whatever. I mean, those are early conversations. They've hopefully for many evolved from that, but still are maybe not so direct ways there. I think also it takes away from the conversation of, and that mirror pointing to the men who do these things. What I feel like this movie wasn't good for that was that it was a movie about physical situations, violence, about, DV. It was not so much of the nuances that either start down that path are never checked because they're not that bad. But they're maybe equally or maybe not equally, but still very much damaging. And that, they talk so many times about these like nuances in these other areas than just the obvious. So I think the movie that Justin had in mind that he was speaking about was not It Ends With Us, but that movie needs to be made. And I hope by a man that speaks to men, that can speak that language. Just like, it's not always the case, but most of the time women speak more to women, to more the experiences, the implicit experiences or expectations or biases that women have, because not all women are the same, but there is a commonality that is more likely to be the case. And then same thing with men. And watching these men talk about it, it's, yeah. And having, women weigh into that as well. And I think, yeah, again, I think that's what Justin thought he was doing or what he wanted to do. But I think I also wonder if he was, at the end of the day, let to do that, either because of his inner guilt, like, oh, I'm a man, so I need to step aside. And I talk about people pleasing and directing a little bit later. Yeah, I don't know if it was like from the inside or from the outside. Colleen Hoover doesn't have a great track record with victims, of how she writes about things and how she promotes things. And then you get Blake Lively, who's kind of an extension of that. So I wonder if great idea, right idea, wrong time, wrong people for Justin. But that's what that makes me think of.
Not abusing them intentionally. Nothing I would go to jail for. I'm on the right side of the law. But I teach my son to have a high regard for women while I was unfaithful to his mom. I was unfaithful to his mom for a long period of time. And yet I'm telling him to respect women. I believe in respecting women. And yet, with that strong belief, was not.
And I'll continue. I'll let Justin ask his question. It makes me tear up. It makes me choke up to hear Jamie choke up and tear up talking about this way that he was disrespecting a woman. And again, you're telling me that this man was one of the people that not only supposedly, allegedly did inappropriate things, showed you an appropriate video of his wife, birthing scene that she approved of and all this stuff. Or maybe that was like an oversight, but like you're telling me that not only that, but I almost forgot what she's really fighting them for is that they did a smear campaign to quiet her afterwards. That's what she is suing them for, the smear campaign, not the SH. That needs to kind of be proven in order for the smear campaign allegation. But like the SH allegations need to also be proven. Again, in what world? It's one thing for, men to do things that were inappropriate. Also, when I say that, people probably that don't even know about this case, go to like really just like worst case scenario, and it's not that. But things that made her uncomfortable and were inconsiderate of them to do. It's one thing to allege that, and it's a whole other thing to see that these men, that Jamie over here, would be like, yeah, let's smear, let's like trash this woman. Let's trash her. Let's, she will speak out about us. She'll like unveil the real us, whatever. Like, what kind of like deranged mental scenario is she trying to like paint? Like I said before, she should have done her own movie. Here's a movie that she should have done instead of doing a lawsuit. Just do a movie. But if she would do a movie, she would probably do a movie, A, that's bad, and B, that would be too detailed to this, and then it would probably be harder for them to prove defamation and all that stuff. Just like, people are saying, oh, the nice bull thing, freedom of expression or whatever, satire and whatnot.
So, Jamie, you're one of my best friends. Where does it come from?
Well, I'm not going to blame it on nothing. I want to say one thing. My behavior, I own. So I had a life since the time I was 7 years old of inappropriate sexual exposure with different people. I looked up to this person that was around, and there was a few years of sexual behavior. I didn't have trauma, so I thought. And then when I got older, now I'm 15, 16 years old. Now I'm with a woman that's much older. I thought I was cool. I wasn't being traumatized. But what was this doing to my brain? It wasn't until years later, till I was around 35, that I had a breakdown. And I started remembering, wait a minute, I wasn't a participant in all this behavior, as I used to think my whole life. I was coerced into it.
2 points before I let him finish, because again, and this next part is like also so powerful to in my opinion, to the man that Jamie is and the character, the high quality character that he has. But besides that, like to these 2 points, trauma in the pandemic times, respectfully, like saying his name feels right now. During the pandemic, Nelson and I would talk on the phone a lot. It was like just awesome. Just going back to kind of like childhood days when you're just talking on the phone. I mean, we also did video chat and stuff eventually, and that wasn't childhood. Like, but at first you're also locked in. Like, the world is, I don't know what it is. And I remember he told me at one point, and I don't remember what it was around. I remember him saying, like, what trauma did you have to do this or to say this or whatever? I forget what it was. It was like a pattern that I had. I got so offended, so defensive. Not offended. Well, I guess both. So defensive around the word trauma. Like, I'm not a victim. How dare you? I'm not a victim. I'm not traumatized. I don't have trauma. And I realized since then that trauma language is not perfect, and I think we do need more words, but right now trauma is not the highest level of what you can imagine. Just like disrespecting women, as Jamie pointed out, it's not that it has to be illegal. Sometimes it's not illegal, but it's still disrespecting women. The same thing with trauma. A lot of people, and I mean especially men, I feel like they're taught just societally to shove things down, and it would make them weak. And that's how I felt, honestly, that I was weak and I was undeserving to even say that I had trauma. So to me, that word was like, no way. And also like almost feeling like a disrespect to whatever it was. I don't even remember what it was. I don't remember the pattern that maybe I still have. My memories are like weird at this point. But yeah, so that's like one thing. And then the other thing that he said, what was the other thing that he said? Sorry. And as far as the Me Too movement, I spoke about this. Was it in my vlog or on here? I forget. Like my own experience of like how saying yes and affirming and like going along with something is easier said than done, truly, in the way, and they talk about this, like the nuance of like sometimes people say no and they don't mean it, sometimes they say yes and they don't mean it, and even saying that is so, it sounds so like, okay, whatever. I think it's sometimes it does play with your brain, society norms, and like depending on like the people around you, the media around that you're seeing or whatever. I think it does play with your brain sometimes of what is actually being coerced, of what is actually something that you're just going along with because you don't feel like you have a choice or because you're not okay with it, but for whatever reason you feel like you should be okay with it or you should go along with it or whatever. And when it's not that, when it is something that you're like willingly going along with. And Justin has spoken about his experience with that. Now Jamie also has this experience, or these experiences that he talks about, and I think that's important, and also an important commonality.
My whole life I was being fed and taught to have sexual feelings towards people, to see them as objects. And this absolutely changed the way who I am and how I treat women, how I see women. And rather than dealing with it in a healthy way, my life started blowing up, and I almost like, some people will say acting out. It all comes from that. But see, I feel like that would be an excuse.
Yeah, but is it an excuse to say that you were abused when you were 7 or 8 years old?
No, that'll explain part of how I became, but won't excuse it.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to excuse your behavior, but the fact is that's real shit. You were abused as a child.
Yeah.
Okay? Mm-hmm. So you and I haven't even gone deep about what happened to you. And that's probably on me for not asking you or not knowing how to ask you. But I don't think men are trained to be able to talk about this or to hold it.
I don't know that women are really, but a lot more than men. And that's what I was talking about as far as character. For him to say, hey, my abuse is not the reason, it's not an excuse, but it shaped my life. I thought, to me, that's an admirable quality that some people can use against you, I guess. Not in his case, but like I think back of how, Ryan, I think, used that similar thing against Justin in his motion to dismiss himself from the case. Sorry, I just thought about it, yeah, anyways.
And eventually a tractor came by, and I just stood right in front of the tractor so the person would...
This was after she experienced what she experienced.
And it turned out it was the 25-year-old who lived right across the street.
I can't even imagine. I can try, but my experiences don't allow me to do that. I don't know what I don't know what it feels like to walk down the street and see someone and have to be afraid or to think that I could be raped. That's not my experience. My experience is imagining, what if that happened to my wife? Can I ask what did your husband do? I mean, I would have wanted to kill that person.
It actually took him months before he told me what this was like. But he saw me in the back of the ambulance and he couldn't recognize me. He said he just went away from the ambulance. He just screamed, he just shouted. If my husband had been walking down that same road that same morning, nothing would have happened to him.
Her part talking about her husband just to further talk about and have an example about how that Reddit person that said, well, I would never offend this person just because he's a man, how disgusting that idea is and that kind of thought process, and how limiting themselves, they're limiting themselves, and how limiting it is, and how unfair. And like Jamie says a lot, like just kind of a constant reminder that most men are good. They're not coming from a bad place. It is really easy to forget when you're very close to being a victim. You could be a victim anytime, because it is quite prevalent. And you're supposed to feel safe with the people that might be the perpetrators at one point for you. So I wanted to leave that in as well, with how her husband reacted, and then also how Justin said he would react. And again, this man is supposedly having an affair with Blake Lively. Or I guess like that quickly fizzled out. No one really bought that, theory. It was more like quickly like, oh, she wanted it, but he turned her down. So at least we get, a little bit more. I don't think it was either of that, but like who knows. But this man, we're supposed to believe again that should be in the situation that he is, at least. I'm not even going to repeat myself as far as like we're supposed to believe that he did these alleged things and blah blah blah, and allegedly like really was inconsiderate and hurtful to Blake, to this woman.